On August 12, 2026, tomorrow, viral posts claim Earth will lose gravity for 7 seconds and that tens of millions of people will die when everything not tied down floats away. The posts cite a supposedly leaked NASA document called Project Anchor, describing an $89 billion program built to prepare for the event with underground bunkers. NASA has now issued a direct public denial. There is no Project Anchor. Gravity does not have an off switch. And nothing on the calendar tomorrow changes how physics works. The claim has spread for 8 months, picked up screenshots that look official, and reached enough people that a space agency felt it had to respond on the record. This story is not really about gravity. It is about how a physically impossible claim gets a fake budget number, a fake program name, and 8 months of runway before anyone with authority says a word. Here is where the claim came from. Why the physics makes it impossible regardless of what any document says. And why this exact hoax keeps returning under a new name every few years. Trace the claim back and it does not lead to a whistleblower or a document leak. Fact-checkers at Snopes and IFL Science traced one of the earliest viral posts to an Instagram account, at Mr_Danya_off, an account with a track record of posting entirely fabricated news stories for engagement. The claim was dressed up with the trappings of a real leak. A program name, a specific dollar figure sometimes reported as 89 million and sometimes as 89 billion depending on which repost you land on, and a bureaucratic-sounding purpose involving bunkers. None of that inconsistency slowed it down. Because the posts were never designed to survive a fact-check. They were designed to survive a 5-second scroll. Once one account seeded it, the claim moved the way this kind of content always moves. Reposted by accounts that add their own urgency, stripped of any sourcing along the way, until a version with no attribution at all was circulating as though it were common knowledge. By the time NASA responded, the original account had already gotten what it wanted. Months of shares. Here is the physics the claim has to get around. And it cannot. Gravity between two objects is described by Newton's law of universal gravitation. The force depends on the mass of each object and the distance between their centers. Full stop. Earth's gravity holding you to the ground depends on Earth's mass and your distance from Earth's center, neither of which changes because of a date on a calendar. A planetary alignment, which is the closest thing to a real astronomical event these posts sometimes gesture at, does not change Earth's mass and barely nudges the distances involved. The actual gravitational pull from Jupiter, Mars, or Saturn lining up with Earth is a rounding error. Far too small for a human body to feel, let alone enough to make you float. There is also no physical mechanism by which any government agency could suspend a fundamental force for 7 seconds even if it wanted to. Gravity is not infrastructure that can be switched off for maintenance. For the claim to be true, more than one law of physics that has held without exception for centuries would have to be wrong. On this one day, with no other evidence, this is not the first time a fake temporary gravity loss event has gone viral. And that history is worth knowing. In 1976, astronomers John Gribben and Stephen Plagerman published a real but wrong prediction, later called the Jupiter effect, that a rare planetary alignment would trigger earthquakes and disasters on Earth. That same year, astronomer Patrick Moore ran an April Fool's joke on BBC Radio claiming a planetary alignment would briefly reduce Earth's gravity and let listeners float if they jumped at the right moment. Callers reported feeling it, which they could not have, because nothing happened. Versions of this exact story have resurfaced roughly every decade since. recycled for whatever alignment or date is coming up next. Because the format works. A real astronomical event is the hook. A fabricated mechanism. And a specific countdown that manufactures urgency. Project Anchor is that same 50-year-old template with an AI generation era upgrade. Fake bureaucratic detail like a program name and a budget line that make a screenshot feel more official than a callback to a 1976 radio prank ever could. Calling this noise does not mean it is harmless. Fear-based hoaxes like this one have a real cost, even when the physics is trivially wrong. They generate genuine anxiety, particularly among younger audiences encountering the claim with no context for how it started. And they train people to distrust institutions. Since a claim this obviously false still took a NASA statement to slow down. There is also a smaller, honest kernel worth naming. Astronomical alignments are real events. Earth's gravity does have measurable micro-variations from tides and mass distribution. And space agencies genuinely do track planetary positions carefully. None of that supports the 7 seconds claim. But it is the sliver of real science the hoax borrows credibility from. Which is exactly what makes it more convincing than a claim built from nothing. And debunking has its own limit. A NASA denial reaches people already skeptical enough to look for one. While the original post reached people who were not looking for anything. They were just scrolling. A fact check rarely travels as far as the fear that prompted it. Quick recap. A viral claim says Earth will lose gravity for 7 seconds tomorrow. August 12, 2026. Citing a fabricated NASA program called Project Anchor that traces back to an Instagram account. Known for fabricated stories. Not a leak. Newton's law of universal gravitation makes the claim physically impossible regardless of any document. And this exact hoax format. A real alignment plus a fake mechanism plus a countdown. Has recurred since at least 1976. So, signal or noise? Noise. Without qualification. There is no leaked document. No physical mechanism. And no agency budget behind this claim. And NASA has said so directly. The one signal buried in this story is what it reveals about how misinformation spreads now. A fabricated budget number and a program-sounding name can carry a physically impossible claim. Further than 50 years of the same debunked idea ever traveled on its own. Tomorrow will pass exactly like every other day. Gravity included. Subscribe for the claims worth checking before you share them. Signal from the noise. Every week.